So what I'm going to present on today is using maps to effectively tell your story. And I think most of you know me, but in case you don't, my name is Melanie Schlotterbeck, and I work as a consultant with the nonprofit Hills for Everyone. So I have a couple of items that I'm going to chat about. This is going to be interactive, so I know it's not typical on Zoom, but be prepared to unmute yourself or type something into the chat. So the four topics that I'm going to cover are geographic information systems, which are basically digital maps. We're going to do a quiz on some maps, and then I'll talk about the benefits of maps and how mapping and data tools relate to advocacy work and 30 by 30. So first up is GIS, or Geographic Information Systems. So what is GIS? It's basically a system that captures, stores, analyzes, manages, and presents data that's linked to a specific location. So thumbs up, hand up, clap, whatever system you want to use on Zoom. Tell me if you've ever used GIS before. All right, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Awesome. Good to know, because some of you may be experts on this already. So what is GIS? Basically, it's capturing data in a theme or a geodatabase that's added to a view or a window. And it's only three features. You've got points, lines, and polygons. So tell me, and maybe I can see if I can bring up the chat here. In the chat, or unmute yourself, tell me what feature might be shown as a point on a map.
Coordinates.
Absolutely. What about a mountain peak? What's another point?
A city.
A city, absolutely. All right, so let's move over to lines. What lines might be on a map?
River.
Rivers, yes.
A county boundary.
Maybe, and that's a maybe because it might also be a polygon. It depends on the county. Some counties have an edge that's at the ocean and there's not necessarily a line there. What about roads, our freeway system? All right, what about polygons?
Like a parcel, land parcel.
Absolutely, or a park, tying it back to 30 by 30. All right, what of congressional districts? Absolutely. Perfect. All right, so now that we know that digital maps are made up of only three features, points, lines, and polygons, we can move on. So this map I stole from AllTrails, and it's got points, lines, and polygons on it. So we've got roads like Highway 95 or the 5. We've got points, which are designated locations of trails. And then we've got polygons. So you can see like Death Valley National Park is a different color in its shape than some of the Sierra Nevada, which is mostly green. So that is basically how a GIS system works: points, lines, and polygons. Some of you may have used some of this software to actually create a map. And some of it is free, some of it is open source, some of it we have on our phone, and some of it costs a lot of money. So there's a diversity of opportunities out there. And my guess is that everybody has used the map feature on their phone, whether it's Google Maps or MapQuest or Yahoo Maps, to get from point A to point B, whether it's the dentist or a trail or a park. You are using a GIS system. So everybody should raise their hand the next time that question's asked. So let me move over to our quiz. I am showing you a map. We're deciding how effective my map is. You know nothing other than there's a globe with some red splotches. So tell me what you think this could be. And if you know what this map is, don't shout it out.
Is it biodiversity hotspots?
Oh, bravo. Nailed it on the first guess. So just by looking at this map, we can see that there's a lot in the Southern Hemisphere. And on the western side of the United States in California, we have something special because there's not a lot of these not of these polygons elsewhere in the world. So yes, this is a global hotspot of biodiversity map. Good job. Here's the next one. What do you think I could be showing here?
The trail of an eagle.
Oh, I like it. This one has points and lines on it. Oh, Chance, man. I think you said, I think you got the last one too. Mountain lion migration. That's actually what this is. So this is the path or paths that one particular mountain lion took during its movement between the Santa Ana Mountains and Chino Hills State Park. So each dot represents a point in time that the GPS location was calculated, and then the arrow is showing you what direction it was going from one point to the next point. Yes, it is super cool. I agree. All right. The constraint, though, on this map is at the 91 freeway. And we're going to be talking about this under the advocacy section, but at the moment, we'll keep moving on. So this map shows something else with numbers on it. What could this be? What story am I trying to tell? And Chance doesn't get to say anything because he's gotten 2 out of 3 so far.
Legislator districts.
Maybe. Anyone else have a guess?
Parcels? No, land
Parcels, okay, and maybe it's sequential, right? Because there's a 1, there's a 10, there's a 3. So this is actually the acquisition history of Chino Hills State Park. So we're trying to show people that this patchwork of acquisitions did not happen in an order that necessarily makes sense, but eventually it all came to be what we're seeing here. Barbara, I'll get to your question a little bit later. So another map, now you've seen Chino Hills State Park's outline, so you kind of know what that looks like, but what could this map be showing? Somebody already said it earlier. Leave, I'm going to call on you.
Parcels. No?
Look in the chat. You had congressional districts.
Oh, okay, that again. Sorry.
Yep, that again. So this shows how the Puente Chino Hills Wildlife Corridor gets divvied up with the new congressional districts. So we have a lot of different legislators that are involved in this work. So next up, let me talk about the benefits of maps. Our work at Hills for Everyone started in the late 70s and early 80s with a map, this map actually, and I have outlined in red what was originally drawn on a paper map as to what the vision of the state park, Chino Hills State Park, was going to look like. So here it is on a digital elevation model that shows the topography. And let me show you how this quilt got woven together across 33 separate acquisitions and about 45 years. So not everything lined up in terms of order, but eventually we got everything filled in. And here's that overlay of the original map versus what's actually been protected. Now, one of the cool things about Chino Hills State Park is that it was designed on ridgeline boundaries. So that red line represents where the ridge lines are. And we've essentially got what we were aiming for, with the exception of the right edge of the park and a little bit just south of the words Chino Hills. And what we've also found is that parks attract other parks. And so other folks have invested in acquisition dollars, mitigation, et cetera, to create a buffer for Chino Hills State Park and other pathways for wildlife to move east-west to the Prado wetlands or north-south between Chino Hills State Park and the Santa Ana Mountains, and then up on into the Puente Hills. right now, we're focused on getting the eastern ridge lines acquired to fill in that map that I was showing you, where we're just missing that eastern sliver of the ridge lines. So we're working on that related to 30 by 30, because Chino Hills State Park was formed through the advocacy work of Hills for Everyone. So back to this map of M6, this mountain lion that crossed under the 91 freeway 22 times. This was a documented study done in the 80s and 90s by a scientist named Dr. Paul Beyer. Him and other students ended up collaring mountain lions and found some great information as it related to Chino Hills State Park. And what we learned was if we didn't connect Chino Hills State Park or the Chino Hills to the Santa Ana Mountains, then our top predator, the mountain lion, was going to die out. And so putting that map in the corner here, we ended up removing an on and off ramp from a freeway through partnerships with Caltrans and protected an underpass under one of the largest and busiest freeways in all of the United States. So that underpass connects to Chino Hills State Park. And this all happened in the late 90s. So a lot of folks have heard about the Wallace-Annenberg Bridge. This was actually done in the late 90s and early 2000s. So state parks was kind of ahead of the game. And when you look at it from the aerial perspective, you can see the freeway and the Santa Ana Mountains are on the upper end of the photo, whereas Chino Hills State Park is now on the lower end. So that was a constraint, a location where wildlife was the last location that wildlife could move into and out of Chino Hills State Park and the Santa Ana Mountains. All right, another map that kind of displays stuff related to 30 by 30. This is the Green Vision map put out by the nonprofit Friends of Harbors, Beaches, and Parks, which I used to work for. And so this was a map I did. If it was green, it was protected. If it was red, it was an active conservation project. And if it was that orange, yellow color, it basically meant that, hey, we know this property exists, but it's not a priority yet to protect. And what ended up happening was we used that map to apply advanced mitigation through the Orange County Transportation Authority. And we ended up protecting some of those red properties. And these are just a few of those that counted towards the acquisition of that the acquisition component of that mitigation program. And then this fire frequency hotspot map shows us with both flames along the 91 freeway. And let me see if I can add annotation here. So this edge right here, there are 40% of the fires we found are starting along that freeway. And you can tell, just like population density, the darker the colors and the more flames there are, those locations are at risk of having more fires occur more frequently. We knew this before the fire agencies did because we mapped it. And so this information was available to the fire agencies because of our work, which is really cool. So again, putting that map in the corner, these are some of the fires that started in those locations, which ultimately led to fire safe councils getting either formed or expanded, and then creating a fire watch program where folks are out there ensuring that, you know, a fire is seen early on when it first starts, and or preventing somebody from starting a fire because people are actually out there watching. So let me just do a time check. I don't have access to my phone. Josefina, can you tell me what time it is?
It is 3:44.
Okay, so I'm just going to show a couple of examples of mapping and data tools that are available. And let me leave this and go here. So hopefully the screen changed for you. Yes. Okay. So this tool, which is Cal Enviro Screen, gives information, and we'll head over here to Riverside since there's a lot of colors. It's based on tract maps. And so when you click on, sorry, tract map, it's not the word, census tract. I've got development on the brain. Census tracts, and it gives you information on how at risk, how disadvantaged, how pollution burdened a particular area is. So this might be something you want to incorporate into an application related to a property for 30 by 30. You can learn about traffic, pesticides, water quality, proximity to groundwater issues, health issues. You also get some socioeconomic data, and then of course some charts. So this is a helpful tool for folks to look at. And of course, this will be available to everyone. And then this is the California Protected Areas database, as well as the California Conservation Easement database. And sometimes it takes a while to load because there's a lot of information in here. But what you can do is you can figure out different layers. So right now we're looking at the ownership layer, and you can modify colors to make things easier to find or see, but you can click on a parcel and learn about who owns it. So in context of 30 by 30, do you have a property that's adjacent to another property that you want to highlight as building on an existing reserve system, or are you filling in a gap somehow? So that's a helpful tool. And then let's say you've got a coastal property. This NOAA sea level rise viewer, we'll head over here to the Monterey Bay area. So you can change the mean high water mark. So let's just say we're expecting 6 feet of sea level rise at some point in time. You now know that some of these riparian areas and low-lying areas are going to be inundated with seawater. So this is a helpful tool if you're applying for a climate resilience grant, for example. They also have marsh migration, high tide flooding, because it doesn't take sea level rise to cause an impact. We also have high tides and king tides. Another map that you could look at is the ACEs, the Areas of Conservation Emphasis, and this one is put out by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So if you're zooming in on an area, we're near Kings Canyon here, you can look at the State Wildlife Action Plan terrestrial targets, which for some reason it's not bringing them up, or it's taking its sweet time. All right, it's apparently taking its sweet time. But there are different options you have here showing you, hexagons that give you information. So when you click on it, it's going to provide you. So climate change resilience rank of 5, that's the highest you can get. So if you're trying to buy that property, this is another reason that your property would rank highly for some of our funding agencies. And then last but not least, can I have somebody call out a zip code, and we will use TPL's Park Score map. Who can give me a zip code?
95816.
All right, 95816. Come on. Maybe, maybe not. All right, it's not loading. All right, we're gonna pick, how about we pick Irvine, that's in California, or San Francisco. We'll head over there since we've already been in Southern California. All right, apparently this page is thinking. Here we go. So it gives you details on how many acres of parkland there are in that zip code, how it ranks, the access, the investment, the amenities, the equity, and you get information. 100% of San Francisco's residents live within a 10-minute walk of a park. That's incredible. That is not normally the case. The average is 76%, and then in urban cities and towns, it's 57%. So San Francisco's done a good job. Again, just one more tool for you to use in terms of understanding how your property could fit into 30 by 30 with protecting biodiversity, equitable access, and then building climate resilience. So let me pop back to my presentation. I just have 2 more slides. So this, I'm going to drop a link to a handout in the chat, or you can scan the QR code, but it gives you information on other tools you might want to look at related to GIS, related to data that you might be interested in for applications you have to put out. And then I'm finally available for questions. And my computer didn't crash, so yay. Pam.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we got a grant to map the wetland areas in San Diego County. And what we did is we did the parcels that surrounded the wetlands that were possible acquisitions. Can we add to that base map these other layers so that, we can add more information? And does that
Yes.
take a PhD to do?
Not necessarily. There are, like with the California Protected Areas database, you can download that information. And as long as you have the software that can accept it or read it, and they have different file options that you can download it in. So some of them are Google Earth files, which KML or KMZ. So you could absolutely add information into what you have.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That makes me really excited to work on
Yeah.
this.
Maps are so cool. They're so helpful. Any other questions?